Hey there, I'm Steve Loflin, and welcome back to ScholarScoop. Today, you're going to hear from someone who, in my mind, is the definition of turning obstacles into opportunities. I first met Yasmine Arrington Brooks when she was a high school student in the LearnServe International program in Washington, D.C. Back then, she was just starting to shape an idea that came from a very personal place, growing up with an incarcerated parent and realizing how many other young people were carrying that very same invisible weight. Yasmine turned her experience into a scholarship and mentorship program for students with incarcerated parents that would eventually become ScholarCHIPS. Fast forward to today, and ScholarCHIPS has supported more than 120 students, awarded over $700,000 in scholarships, and helped produce dozens of college graduates across fields from nursing to biomedical engineering to the arts. Yasmine has been honored as a CNN hero and a L'Oreal Paris Woman of Worth. But what stands out the most is how relentlessly she always shines the spotlight back on her scholars and their stories. In our conversation, we talk about how a single yes in high school set off a chain of events that changed her life and how persistence really works behind the scenes. I am so glad that you're here. So now let's get some Scholar Scoop from Yasmine. Hey there, Yasmine. Thank you so much for joining me today to what I'm sure is going to be a lot of incredible Scholar Scoop. How are you doing?
Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited for our conversation today.
Oh my gosh, thanks for saying yes to the opportunity. I think that's kind of one of the things, having known you and known about you for a long time, is I think you're like a person that says yes to a lot of things, right? Is that your MO a little bit?
I do. Yes, that's absolutely true. But I say yes to things that, organizations, people, churches, like folks who have a particular mission,
Hmm.
especially missions that are around positive things, making positive change in the world, inspiration, motivation, social change, faith, like those types of things. I will, if I am able, I will definitely say yes.
Well, I think like being mission driven is super important. And I think the world in general needs more positivity and a lot more of that Yasmin energy going for it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was thinking about this conversation, and I actually encountered you first way back when you were in high school, and
Yes.
you were a part of a program called LearnServe International, uh,
Yes.
which for a little while I was a part of an advisory board and worked with Scott on some things there. And
Right.
I think that, I would love to hear like your experience with LearnServe and how that high school opportunity kind of took an idea that you had and started that down a path of making a huge impact. So, can you give us a little bit of that backstory on that program and how you brought your idea to that program and turned it into something amazing?
Yes, absolutely, Steve. So, you set the stage really nice there. When I was a junior in high school and I went to Benjamin Banneker Academic High School in Washington, D.C. So what happened was when I was walking through the hallways, I think this was like my sophomore and or junior year, some of my peers were like running up to me like, Yasmine, have you heard of LearnServe? You should enroll in LearnServe. You would love it. Like I literally like two or three people said that to me. So by the time that the second or third person came to me, I'm like, okay, what is this LearnServe? Like, what is this? What is this program? And so, I Googled it and I saw the mission of the organization. And to be honest, as a young person, what really caught my attention was that LearnServe offered opportunities for service learning trips
Mhm.
for teenagers to study abroad. And that was really what caught my eye initially. And so that sold me alone, right?
Right.
And of course I saw the community service aspect and the social innovation aspect. But at 15, 16 years old, I had never heard of social innovation or even social entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
And so I applied, um, I was interviewed, I got accepted, and then, I started my journey. And as you know, LearnServe, it's a year long, like a school year long program, and they take you through the curriculum. And I was able to meet awesome high school students. We were definitely like the proud nerds, but like from across the DMV at the DC, Maryland, Virginia at that time. School students from public schools, magnet schools, private schools, Catholic schools. Like it was a very diverse group. And I mean, it was awesome. It was just
Mhm.
an awesome experience as a teenager. And of course, we had our cohort leaders. At that time, Scott was my cohort leader.
Mhm.
And one of the questions they asked us is, what pisses you guys off? And at
Mhm.
first, we're like, huh?
Mhm.
What? Like, what are you talking about? And so LearnServe challenged us. I mean, you know the program model, but just sharing with listeners sort of what that experience was like for me. Uh, I mean, we did get to meet lots of incredible entrepreneurs and leaders, that whether they were in the nonprofit sector or for-profit sector, or even maybe they had hybrid models, and they talked about, how they got started and their passion and, whatever sector they were working on, health equity, environmental sustainability, just incredible work. And then LearnServe challenged us to identify a social issue that we wanted to see change and improve within our communities, or our city, our state, our nation, the nation, and identify that particular social issue. And then they further challenged us to come up with what they called a venture project, or a venture, which is a creative solution to that social problem. And so
Mhm.
for me, the social issue that I identified initially on a macro level, but I narrowed my focus to the effects of parental incarceration on children and families. And one of the reasons that that issue resonated then and still resonates with me now is because my dad has been in and out of jail and prison essentially my entire life.
Yeah.
And so LearnServe further challenged us to, or the next step was to do background research on the issue and figure out who is most affected by this system, by this issue. Why, what are the impacts, what are the negative impacts, if there are any positive impacts, and just all that kind of background research. And so when I was doing my research, um, I started to see these alarming statistics, and one of them that stood out to me, and the statistic at that time was that some research think tanks cited that nearly 2.5 million young people in the United States have had an incarcerated parent. Now that statistic has been updated by the Annie E. Casey Foundation, that nearly 5 million young people in the
Oh,
United
wow.
States have. Yes,
Wow.
that's just crazy.
That is
Ha
crazy.
Yeah, yeah, have had an incarcerated parent. So, once I saw that number, it's like a light went off or something clicked, and I realized that I wasn't alone in
Mhm.
that experience, and that so many other young people were going through that, experience of having a parent incarcerated. And then in terms of how my venture project came about, which is how ScholarCHIPS was birthed, my maternal grandmother, my mom's mom, raised me. She raised me and
Mhm.
my two brothers. A big advocate of education. Her entire background, her education and career has been around early childhood education. So she taught me how to read and write very young. I was reading like newspapers by the time I was 5.
Mhm.
Right, and putting words from the newspaper I didn't know on my wall, like vocabulary words and things like that. And so we knew, my grandmother had set that precedent and example, and I knew that I wanted to go to college after high school, but the challenge was how were we gonna pay for it? And so
Mhm.
she was helping me to research scholarships online that I could apply for by the time I became a senior in high school so I could afford a college education. And during that process, and I was still going through LearnServe, my junior year, this was happening simultaneously. My grandmother made an observation and she told me, she said, Yasmin, there are so many niche and creative scholarship programs out here, but I don't see any for young people like yourself who have incarcerated parents. So grandma had the aha,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
she put the dots together.
Yep.
And then, I at first I didn't think anything of it really. I was just like, "Oh, okay, like wow, that's interesting." But then I go back to LearnServe and they're like, "Yeah, you guys, so we need, you're going to make a business plan and you're going to pitch your idea to a panel of judges." And I'm like, what can I possibly do at 16 years old to reduce recidivism or help to dismantle the massive mass incarceration in our country, right? And so
Mhm.
ultimately the answer became ScholarCHIPS, a scholarship mentorship program to help young people like myself who have incarcerated parents to help them get to and through college and into their careers. And to my surprise, the panel of judges, which were LearnServe volunteers, they loved the idea and they were encouraging me to consider making it a living, breathing nonprofit organization. And when I was in LearnServe, that was the first time I had heard the term nonprofit organization or 501c3. And so I won't get into all of it, but there were a series of other things that happened after that. Like it sparked my curiosity. I was really encouraged by the feedback I received encouraged and surprised of
Mhm.
the feedback I received from the panel. And Scott was actually him being our cohort leader. And then Ashoka's youth venture, who was Ashoka, who that was a partner with LearnServe at the time, and they may still have that partnership, but they gave scholarships. They gave me $1,000 seed grant. That was probably the biggest amount of money I'd ever seen at 16 years old, but I wasn't even old enough to have my own bank account, right? So once those two things happen, the positive feedback from the panel of judges and also the seed grant, I was like, oh snap, like now I actually have to do something. So that was the beginning. That was literally the beginning. And Scott was one of the founding board members of ScholarCHIPS back in the day. So that's how ScholarCHIPS came about in the early days.
Well, it just reminds me that just happened to stumble upon something. And by stumbling upon that and being curious and saying, I think I'll try this out, it actually opened a whole door for so many things that, if you just think about the day before you stumbled upon LearnServe, in this point in time, had you not done that, your life could have gone in a whole nother direction with your
Absolutely.
career or your future. And I think sometimes people underestimate how important it is just to step into something and give it a try because you don't know where in your life journey that might take you and how it might open doors and opportunities. And so I love that story. And I think when I think about the people that I am fortunate enough to get to know and interact with all the time, you're definitely one of those. You're probably the most legit kind of obstacles to opportunities person that I
Nice.
know because you sort of captured some obstacles that you had as a part of your lived experience.
Mm,
And you didn't let that turn into something negative. You turned it into opportunities that has helped a lot of students now. So, where has the organization grown from that first $1,000 seed grant when you were 16 years old to
yeah.
where it is today? What has happened with scholarships along the way?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And thank you for that, Steve. I'm very humbled by that. I received that. And I laugh because, especially now, like everyone is and I mean everyone has their own unique story to share, but like
Mhm.
everyone is on the path to being a motivational speaker. And, we often hear the, turn your obstacles into opportunities. So
Mhm.
I, 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 I appreciate your compliment because it means a lot. And
Mm,
but in terms of where scholarships is now, from since the start, since launching scholarships, as a LearnServe fellow, and also a Girl Scout. So my the launch or the kickoff of scholarships, I did a kickoff for scholarships as my Girl Scout Gold Award. So I continued what I started in LearnServe and also transferred that, because Girl Scouts, also has the one of the pillars and values is community service,
mhm.
service to humanity.
Yeah.
And so instead of me like reinventing the wheel or trying to think of a totally different social project, my Learn Serve venture became my Girl Scout Gold Award, my kickoff for scholarships. But to date, in 2026, we have supported over 120 students. We've given over this is just
Mm,
it doesn't even sound real, but we've awarded over $700,000 in college scholarships since 2012. In 2012, I launched scholarships in 2010, but in 2012 was the first year that scholarships brought in a cohort of students,
mm,
of young people who are graduating, who graduated from high school and were going to college in the fall. And then this year, in 2026, we're bringing in our 15th cohort of scholars, and this cohort is 20 plus students strong. I think we're going to have at least
mm,
25 scholars. And when we started scholarships, I was focusing, and the organization was focusing exclusively on students from DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And we will always, we always have out of the cohorts, we always have at least half of the cohort is from the DMV. And
mhm,
then the other half we started when we got the CNN Hero honor in 2023. I felt led to open up the our eligibility nationally. I wanted to see what the response was going to be, and we started to get over 100 applications every year. And so we did this in 2024. Yep, we did it in 2024. We had and then 2025, and then this year we also have a cohort of 20 plus students, where half of them are from DC, mainly DC and Maryland. The other half of students are from out of state.
mhm.
Um, and I mean, it has just scholarships, and we've had 56 college graduates. And it is
Wow.
just incredible to see how this community has grown, is growing and thriving, especially for the students who are very engaged with us. I mean, we've taken young people. We just in April, and we did this a couple of years. Once I think we did in 2024, and again this year, we took a group of our scholars and alumni to Arizona State University. ASU has an annual conference. It's literally called Annual Children of Incarcerated Parents Conference, and they shared their stories, and we've been meeting incredible practitioners in this
Mm,
space, and criminologists and researchers and professors and former prison wardens and pastors, like, of summer camps for kids with incarcerated parents. Like, we've been meeting some incredible people. Our scholars are networking. They've been getting jobs and internships, graduate and going into all different a great variety of career fields. We've got a biomedical engineer. We've got
mm,
nurses that are going into different specific focus areas within nursing. We've got screenwriters and actors, and I mean, it is so incredible. The scholarships has become so much bigger than me, than I could have ever imagined. And it's really it's just really phenomenal to watch and to see, and to even see how some of our scholars become friends too.
mhm.
That friendships that go beyond beyond scholarships. So I'm excited to see, maybe we'll get a marriage one day out of the scholarships community and a scholarships baby, you know?
Right. It's funny that you say that because I feel the same way with NSCS. We have I mean, there are actual stories of people who met because of their kind of affiliation with NSCS, and we say
Yeah.
the same thing. We're like, "Oh, we call it scholar love," and then,
I
"Oh, we've
like that. Scholar love.
got a little mini scholar baby that," but
I
it
like
is
it.
but I think it's great from my experience with NSCS, and there's some comparable things I hear in your story where you don't realize when you're starting this, all of the other things that are outcomes beyond just what the mission is. Like
Yes.
you have the mission, but because of that mission, it brings people together. Those people become friends. Sometimes it turns into relationships and other things, and that's the part that's so rewarding, right? And it goes back to, I think, as you were thinking about, or not even thinking about turning this into an idea, but once the idea starts unveiling itself and turning into something, it's just important to kind of not miss the moments, and think about the fact that because you did this, you're making such an incredible impact. And I think it's great too that you have gotten so many kind of awards and accolades for what you've done. And you mentioned the CNN Hero Award, which I remember when that was announced, and it was such a great moment for you to be included. It's kind of like a little exclusive club, right, of people that
Yes.
get that honor. And it was so deserving, and
Thank
I'm
you.
sure for you, it must have given a lot of publicity around the mission and what you're doing. Is that how you felt about it at the time, or what do
It
you
did. It did. I mean, I think a few things, and I'm also not afraid to tell people, like, the reality, like what it is like behind the scenes.
think?
Um But I mean, we can't refute, CNN is one of the, I mean, it may be the largest, but one of the largest, both national and international news sources. And it's very well recognized, and for many well respected, and for many, it's their primary source of national and or international news. And so, and also what I learned was CNN Heroes specifically, they have their own fan base. Like, they
Mhm,
have some people that tune into CNN Heroes every single year when the big show airs, in
mhm.
December. And so, like, we met a teacher, and I can't remember. I want to say it was like 7th grade, maybe middle school, either element, like 6th grade or 7th, 8th grade. And he has his students watch CNN Heroes, and we met them virtually. I cannot remember what state they were in, and they were like like, not screaming,
Uh,
but they were like crying and like fangirling essentially about seeing. They were like, "Oh my gosh, like, you guys are real!" Like, it was just it was very touching, very humbling, and it was really. I'm not gonna lie, it felt like a celebrity moment.
like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, you were in that moment, they're kind of their shero, right? Their person. Eh, I feel like CNN does the hard job of trying to identify all of these organizations and people that are having an incredible impact, and then they kind of bring it down to kind of a digestible group of people that you get brought up to the surface, right?
Yeah, yeah, and to be honest, I would probably have a hard time being. I don't even know what those conversations are like in those boardrooms, those corporate executive boardrooms, about who they're going to. So yes, you're right. I did end up, all honor and glory to God. I'm just so grateful. Like, I ended up being a part of that top 10, the top 10 CNN heroes that you mentioned, that they actually put on the big screen. They'll air like shorter segments about more, or about 25 organizations a year, nonprofit organizations, and this, like, they tell the stories of the founders and that type of thing, but then they narrow it down to 10. And
Mhm.
so, I was a part of that group, and the day of the show, like they treat you. I mean, the treatment is incredible. Everybody's so kind and supportive, and I got to meet Danielle Brooks, who is a famous a singer and an actress. She introduced me because she was an actress on the show Orange is the New Black. I think I
Hmm.
said that right. Yeah, Orange is the New Black.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I got to meet Anderson Cooper and Laura
Hmm.
Coates. I mean,
Hmm.
it was, and then who was at my table? Famous actress. She was huge back in the 80s and 90s. Brooks. I think her last name, Brooke Shields.
Oh, Brooke Shields. Oh,
Brooke
great.
Shields was, and
Right.
I was so mad I did not get a picture, but Brooke Shields was and her daughter were at my table. So, I
Oh,
mean, it was just like, it was one of those moments that are forever etched into my memory. I'm forever
mhm.
grateful. And it did give scholarships a lot of exposure. And
Yep.
it helped us like the day. So CNN has a partnership with, or at that time they had a partnership with GoFundMe
Hmm.
and, the crowdfunding, and they, for each CNN hero, they, GoFundMe set up a page for us. And I mean, I've done my own pages on GoFundMe, but they helped us to set it up. And then from the time that it aired in early like April of that year all the way down, we maybe raised about 1,700
Hmm.
from donations. The day, literally, Steve, the night of that show aired, the next day, something just said like to me, like, check GoFundMe. I checked that account, it jumped to $17,000.
Oh, I love that story. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, like, what? So and I don't know what the viewership is. I imagine it's probably tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands or more people, was just incredible. But I will say that after coming off of a mountaintop like that, and a, sort of like a natural high and excitement, it can put a lot of pressure, or a founder can feel a lot of pressure to continue to perform at a high level.
Hmm.
Of course, the question is, what's next? And so that was in my mind a lot. And sadly, with large corporations like that, even though they have that massive, audience and all of that, the rah,
Hmm.
they kind of drop kick you. Like
Right.
after that
Hmm.
moment and after all you, like, that's it.
Right.
So you have
Right.
to navigate, okay, how can I leverage this in a positive way, for to advance the mission of scholarships, to expand our impact, which is one of the reasons why I felt, well, now that a lot of people have seen us across the country, why not expand that eligibility? And everybody didn't agree with that decision, but it was a decision that felt right in my heart. And
Hmm.
after meeting these young people, I'm so glad that we did. So,
Well, I think when I hear you say that, obviously you started your program in the Washington, D.C. area. So it made sense that it was like a commitment to a local cause that was important to you. And then you do get exposure and you get a lot of recognition for the impact that you're having, which is incredible. And then I think it's wise on your part to say, well, now that we've had more national and beyond exposure, how could we evolve this program to have a bigger impact? And I think that's how people should probably frame up their experiences, right? Like, I've
mhm,
had this experience. What do I do beyond this
mhm,
experience to create what's next? Or how do I evolve now what I've invested so much into to become something that's a little bit better? Um,
yes.
but I think and I know your time's limited, and I appreciate you really squeezing this conversation in. I feel
We
like we
could
could
talk
talk
all
for
day,
like
Steve.
we could talk for a week probably,
Yeah.
because I mean I don't think we have to go too far into it, but I think the next thing that was so impressive is when you got the L'Oreal Paris
Oh,
Women of
yeah.
Worth award. Like it must have felt great to kind of be sort of, I guess, given the honor of and the title of being a woman of worth. I mean, I'd like to believe every woman has the worth, right? But when L'Oreal Paris, I guess, gets involved, That's a really big honor as well. Did you find a similar experience with that as you did with the CNN Hero program?
Yes, yes, and
Yeah.
I'll just say I would be remiss, Steve, not to share this with you and your incredible listeners, especially college students. I applied multiple times for both, or I was nominated multiple times, both for CNN Heroes as well as L'Oreal Paris. And one of the things, I mean, we know this, but I always make sure I say this, is you never know who's watching. You never know
Mhm.
who's watching you. And I've had so many great opportunities and partnerships where the people behind the company, the organization, or even individuals would watch me and ScholarCHIPS and like see, okay, who is this person? Is she consistent? What is she doing? Is it really making an impact? How are they spending their dollars? Like all of that. And so with CNN, when I applied pre-pandemic, I got an initial call, but I didn't hear anything after that. And then years later, got another nomination in, what was that? I guess 2022, 2023.
Mhm.
And I ended up going all the way through the process. But on the other end of it, like the night before when we were doing rehearsal, one of the executives came up to me and she said, Yasmine, she's like, I feel like I know you. She said, we've been watching you. We've been following you for years. And I was like, who is
Right.
watching me? Right.
Right.
So, anyway, I thought that was just like, that really taught me a lot. And I don't know for sure, but I would dare to say that L'Oreal might have been, maybe some executives or someone within the organization might have been following scholarships as well, because I applied when I was a teenager and I kept
Mhm.
applying, and I said, I always felt like, not that I'm, trying to put myself on a pedestal or anything, but I always saw and believed my own worth and value, and like in the mission of scholarships, and that our story, and our scholar stories deserve to be heard and seen and
Mhm.
felt, because it's
Yep.
healing, it's transformative. And so, L'Oreal, I mean, that was just the year. What was that?
Mhm.
2025.
Yep.
And to answer your question, the experience was very much similar to CNN Heroes, but it was also unique because it was L'Oreal. And L'Oreal is about beauty and all of these products. And so, I mean, I can't even begin to really describe the experience. It was really a first class. I mean, they make you feel like you are a real, like how we see in the how we define it and see it in our media, like a real A-list celebrity. That's how they make you feel. And
Yep.
Andy McDowell, who is also another famous actress, and
Mhm.
she acts in interesting projects. Like she's done like Sesame. She's done work with the characters from Sesame Street. She was in one
Mhm.
of their movies. She did a movie with Queen Latifah, and more recently she's done some like eerie type of films and everything. But she when you see her face, like she's been around for forever. She was the one who introduced me. And I mean, I was in rooms with folks like Heidi Klum
Mhm.
and even the Jenners, Kylie Jenner and all, and so like it was very, it felt kind of like a I don't know. It just felt like one of those moments, because I'm not in that world. and so
Right.
and so
Right.
to step into it is just kind of like, whoa, this is on another level of luxury and whatever prestige. And it was just a powerful moment. And also the women that I met that are like everyday women like me, have really unique testimonies and started these incredible organizations that are impacting. Some of them are working with like thousands of people
Right.
in their states, and some of them even nationally. Some of them are on national stages. They're giving talks. Like they are even more incredible than I probably could ever be. So it was just a really humbling experience, a very empowering, and of course the fashion and the photo shoots and the magazine covers. And so, and again, it's the high of it is so high and like intoxicating in a positive way. When you come off of that, it's like, "Oh my gosh, like, what is next? How can I possibly, like, do something even better than this?" You know? But, I will say, I do wish that those programs really had a real true, like, alumni, program,
Mhm.
which is why with scholarships, I'm very intentional about engaging our alumni
Yep.
because it's so much more than just one moment. Like, they have the opportunity to build an incredible network and really empower the current generation of social innovation leaders and even future generations, but that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah, well, I think, a couple things in that. One that you said, and I heard it loud and clear, that to receive these things requires a lot of persistence. And I
Yes.
think, and that can be true for students that are thinking about where they want to go to college or where they want to go to grad
Mhm.
school or where they'd like to
Mhm.
work. You need to
Mhm.
be persistent sometimes and not give up. And
Yes.
when you don't get something, it just means to try again if you really want it. And
Yes.
eventually, and then I also heard you say when you told the CNN story, how in the world could you top this experience? And then yet you go on to say, well, look at then what happened with the L'Oreal honor. And I know that there's going to be a lot more of these
Aw,
types of
thank you,
opportunities for you.
Steve.
But the thing about it, and I hope everybody realizes this, every time you get these opportunities, you're actually representing such a large audience and they get to sort of be in the glow of all this as well, right?
Yes.
So it's such a meaningful thing for every person that you've
Mm.
made an impact with because you've started this. You're getting the recognition that you deserve, and I think that's amazing. But it
Thank
really is
you.
reflective of all the people that you've served and helped, and I hope that they feel as much pride in it as you do because it really
Aw.
is for them too, is how I hear the story.
Absolutely, absolutely, and just to add to that point, Steve, I any chance I get now, those opportunities, they usually focus on and highlight the founder, but
Yep,
anytime I have the opportunity, I'm always highlighting our scholars and
yep,
alumni, their journeys, their stories. I mean, because you've seen it. I'm very intentional about doing that across social media platforms, also in local news.
yep.
I'm trying to get a national story, but goodness gracious, I mean,
Right.
they really, really keep a tight gatekeep on that. But anyway, I I received that, and I do think, I hope too that and our scholars and alumni, they are very, a lot of them, not all, but a good portion of them are very locked in with scholarships. They're engaged. They love, like, when we do testimony Tuesdays, when we do where are they Wednesdays, like they are really engaged and they get excited when they're featured. And I'm just
Mhm.
like, wow, guys, like they're really into it. And they follow on Instagram and they'll repost to their friends. It's just really exciting to see, how they feel about being a part of this community, and to feel seen, and to feel loved and appreciated and understood, especially when we grow up with, having an incarcerated parent. There's so many questions that come to our minds, so many, insecurities, even fears and things like that. So to be a part of a community that validates your existence and your worth,
Mhm.
is a big deal. So I'm honored to be able to be a representative particularly of this population. Yeah.
Well, I love, as we kind of wrap this up, I love personally that Andy McDowell was the person
Oh,
that introduced you,
oh,
only because
she was great.
we're both South Carolinians. Like she's from South Carolina originally, and she has a really interesting story. Like for a
Uh,
while, she and her mom and her sister worked at a McDonald's
I
in
didn't know that.
in Gaffney, South Carolina, and she kind of got discovered in that role, and so. And then she went to 1 year of college at the time it was a women's college in my hometown. So I've
Oh,
followed her career for a long time, and I know she's been a big ambassador and a really big person in the L'Oreal world with all of her movies and everything else. So I've always
yes.
I actually one time was in Paris on vacation and she was filming a commercial and I have pictures of it on my phone because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in like I'm breathing the same air right now as
Yes.
Andy. So I think that's really an amazing thing. And then I would be
And she's
remiss
so
to,
sweet. She's very
yeah.
down to earth. Very, very, very down to earth. So sweet.
Yeah, I've heard that, and she waved at me when I said something about South Carolina, so I felt like I had my moment. Not quite the
Yes,
same moment you had with Andy
that's
McDowell,
okay.
but
No, but that's her.
it was enough for me in that moment, like, "Oh my gosh, we go way back." I think I
Yes.
yelled out, "Rock Hill, I'm from Rock Hill, South Carolina,"
Oh
and she
my
was like,
goodness.
so nonetheless,
I
but I
love
would
it.
actually also really, really quick, I would be remiss to not mention how excited I am that you are going to be joining us for our ScholarCon conference in Washington, D.C. this summer for
Yay!
NSCS for all of our scholars. And you mentioned a few minutes ago, this is the first ScholarCon gathering we've had of NSCS members since before the pandemic. We kind of
Mm.
went virtual, but over the course of our virtual, gatherings in the summer, actually one of our keynote speakers a couple of years ago was Laura Coates that you mentioned from CNN.
Oh my goodness,
Uh,
I love her too. Oh,
she was amazing. So I know as amazing as she is, and as we've seen just from this conversation, how amazing you are. I would say that our scholars attending this summer are going to be so lucky to get to spend some time with you. So thank you for saying yes to that opportunity as well.
absolutely. And oh my goodness, Steve, I am so excited for ScholarCon this year. And you guys, like, I can't wait to see you. Please press your way to Washington, D.C., to the DMV, and we will see you at the ScholarCon in August. I'm excited to meet you, to hug you, to shake hands with you, and just congratulate you on all your success up to this point and still and just to meet you and hear your stories and hear where you're from and what universities you're going to and all of the incredible things that you're doing.
Well, thank you so much for that and for spending this amount of time with me today to give out some really incredible perspective and some great scholar scoop that I think will give so many people so many things to think about. And we didn't even get to talk about your college experience, or we didn't get
Oh
to
yeah,
talk about your,
part two.
you have your books, your memoir and your
Yes,
journal for social entrepreneurs that I hope
yes.
everyone will seek out because there's so much there that I think can be useful for people. And, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but I would say this is probably true for you just because we've had a similar experience of starting these organizations that we want to have an impact and make a
Mm-hmm.
difference.
Mm-hmm.
And for different reasons, but similarly, incredibly, a big opportunity to impact students and scholars. But maybe you can see it right behind me. My mantra since kind of the beginning has been wrapped around trust your crazy ideas, right? And I just want to say congratulations to you for trusting what probably seemed like a crazy idea when it was marinating in the beginning, but it certainly has had an incredible impact on so many people. So thank you for joining me today for this conversation. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. And I love that. Trust your crazy ideas. Yeah. It kind of
Yes.
sounds like there's a quote, I can't remember who it's attributed to, but they'll say you're crazy until you do it. Like until it's done,
Right.
right? Or they'll say
Exactly.
it's crazy until it's done.
Right, and then after that, you're just like a transformative leader, that's doing but you had to put up with all the people that wouldn't embrace that, until they were proven. You had to
Hmm.
prove something before they would actually believe you, so,
That's right. That's
yep,
right.
that's back to
I
what
bet
you
I
said
bet they
earlier.
believe it now.
They do, and I think it's back to what you said earlier. The bottom line is you have to believe in yourself, right? You
Yes.
have to believe in what you can accomplish and take the initiative, and then let all the other people and whatever their perspectives are, they'll come along eventually. And
Yes.
and again, thank you so much for doing this, and I look forward to seeing you at ScholarCon.
Yay! I'm so
Yay!
excited. I'm excited for ScholarCon, Stephen. Thank you. This was an amazing interview, amazing conversation.